teenage girl is possessed by the filthiest demon, the legendary Pazuzu.
I'm talking about Regan.
From one of history's most terrifying horror movies, The Exorcist. This 1973 classic wasn't just a scary movie, it was a full-blown cultural phenomenon. And the one scene that really shocked generations was the 360 head spin that was pulled off so flawlessly people fainted in theaters, some ran out screaming, and others even believed that the film itself was cursed. This one scene definitely gave many people nightmares. Before we get started, let me warn you, there are going to be some spoilers in this video. The Exorcist was directed by William Friedkin, a filmmaker known for his raw, intense style of storytelling. Friedkin approached the horror genre with a level of realism rarely seen before, making the film feel disturbingly authentic. The screenplay was written by William Peter Blatty, adapted from his own novel of the same name, which was inspired by a real-life exorcism case. The film also features an incredible cast. Linda Blair delivers an unforgettable performance as Regan, capturing both innocence and terror as the young girl becomes possessed, while Ellen Burstyn serves as Chris, the desperate mother fighting to save her daughter. Jason Miller plays Father Karras, a troubled priest grappling with his faith, and Max von Sydow portrays the experienced exorcist Father Merrin.
The story follows Chris and her 12-year-old daughter, Regan,
who begins exhibiting strange and terrifying behavior. Medical and psychological tests fail to explain her violent outbursts, disturbing voices, and supernatural occurrences.
As Regan's condition worsens,
Chris turns to the church for help, leading to a battle between good and evil as two priests attempt to exorcise the demon possessing her. But what made The Exorcist truly unforgettable was its disturbing imagery and groundbreaking horror effects, and no scene was more shocking than the infamous 360-degree headspin. It was a moment that sent chills down audiences' spines and changed horror forever. Regan is a bright, imaginative child, and Chris is a devoted single mother. Their life seems normal, but soon, things begin to change.
Regan finds a Ouija board
and starts communicating with an invisible presence she calls Captain Howdy. At first, it seems like a harmless childhood imagination, but soon it gets unsettling.
As time passes, Regan's behavior grows increasingly strange.
She complains about her bed shaking at night, hears scratching noises, and begins acting out in ways that are completely out of character. She becomes irritable, swearing at her mother and showing bursts of violent aggression.
Chris believes this is just a phase because Regan is entering her teenage years, but
the reality is something no one could expect. Things escalate dramatically on a night when Chris hosts a dinner party. The guests include her film's director and Father Dyer.
Everything is going fine until Regan suddenly walks in the room,
eyes blank, and urinates on the floor. Before Chris can take her away,
Regan points to the guests and mutters,
"You're going to die up there."
Chris believes Regan is having some sort of medical issues,
so she takes her daughter to several doctors and psychiatrists. However, every medical test comes back normal. The doctors eventually suggest it might be a psychiatric disorder or possibly schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder, but their treatments do nothing.
Instead, Regan's condition worsens.
She begins speaking in strange, guttural voices, displaying inhuman strength, and even physically attacking her doctors. Her body seems to be working in unnatural ways, as if something inside her is fighting to escape. The true horror comes when Chris wakes up one night to a sound of screaming and crashes.
She rushes to Regan's room to find her daughter violently trembling.
Her bed is also shaking on its own, bouncing wildly off the floor. Chris watches in horror, helpless to stop it. Soon the demon inside her gets out of control and starts hurting people around her. The first victim is the movie director who is found dead outside of Chris's house. His neck was broken and his head was twisted completely backwards. Though police declared an accident of falling down the stairs, the detective is still looking into this case. He even meets Chris and tells her that the movie director was actually thrown out of her house window. Chris finally starts to realize that her daughter is possessed and needs religious help. For this purpose, she turns to Father Dyer and her friend, Father Damien Karras. But Karras has recently lost his mother and suffers from depression. He himself even started to question his religious faith.
When Chris tells him Regan is possessed,
Karras refuses to believe that.
However, after visiting Regan, his doubts begin to crack. He tries to talk to Regan, but her words seem unclear.
When Karras plays their recorded conversation backwards, he realizes that Regan was speaking English in reverse and also uses other languages like Latin. It's impossible for a mental disease to teach new languages. Karras also hears multiple voices speaking at once,
which makes it clear that Regan's body has another entity beside her.
Karras presents his findings to the church and requests an exorcism. The church agrees and sends Father Merrin. When Merrin arrives at the house, he immediately remembers about his recent discovery. It was shown at the start of the movie. Father Merrin was at the excavation site in northern Iraq where he found a small artifact of an ancient demon named Pazuzu. The discovery unsettled him, and soon, creepy signs began appearing around him. As he stood before a massive statue of Pazuzu, its terrifying face seemed to be staring down at him. The air felt heavy, and Merrin sensed that something evil had been awakened. Little did he know, such demons can travel the world in order to find their host.
Reagan is also possessed by the same demon. It's Pazuzu. Marin and Karis prepare for the ritual to scare off Pazuzu, but they have no idea how strong the demon is. The exorcism begins anyway. Karis and Marin enter Reagan's room, armed with crucifixes and prayer books. But the moment that they step inside, the atmosphere shifts. The air is icy, objects tremble, and the walls seem alive. Reagan laughs in a guttural voice, hurling vile insults and blasphemies at the priests. She mocks Karis' dead mother, vomits in their faces, and even levitates off the bed. The next thing that happens is the moment that would give nightmares to generations. Reagan stiffens, her breathing slows, and then, in one slow, unnatural motion, her head begins to turn. It twists and twists until it makes a full 360-degree turn, something a human can never do or wish to see anyone else doing. Reagan grins creepily, and in her demonic voice, she lets out a chilling laugh. For 1970s audiences, this was pure terror. There was no CGI at the time, everything was practical effects. Friedkin used a life-size dummy of Reagan, and the result was so realistic that people fainted in theaters. Even today, with all the advanced horror effects that we've seen, the headspin scene remains one of the most disturbing moments in film history. It's not just about the visuals, it's about what they represent. Reagan is completely gone. Her body just a puppet for something evil, something unnatural, and she's far away from being a normal human. Reagan's body language aligns with the historical description of the evil Pazuzu. This makes The Exorcist unique. It shows how filthy and deadly a demonic possession can actually be. Because of his shattering faith, Karis can't face the demon anymore and lets Marin continue the exorcism. Chris gets really worried and begs Karis to save her daughter, but he seems confident in Marin's skills. After a while, Karis eventually gathers courage to re-enter the room only to find Marin dead. He was too old for this job and suffers a fatal heart stroke. Karis gets really angry and starts beating Reagan, but this is not gonna work. After failing to save both his mother and father Marin, Karis can't bear another loss even if he has to sacrifice himself. Karis volunteers to become the next host. The demon agrees to the deal and leaves Reagan's body. The little girl is free while the demon is settling down in its new host. All of a sudden, Father Karis stands up and jumps out of the window. He rolls down from the stairs and dies of fatal injuries. The next morning, Chris and Reagan prepare to leave Georgetown. Reagan has no memory of what happened, but when she sees Father Dyer, a friend of Karis, she instinctively hugs him as if she subconsciously remembers the priest who saved her. The ending is not as simple as it seems. Karis was a man who was struggling with his faith, but he found strength where it was needed the most. He didn't ask the demon to possess him just because he was angry, it was part of his plan. If we look closely in his eyes, we can see that Karis fought the demon inside him and used the last bit of strength to jump out of the window. He only got a few seconds to make his decision before the demon takes over his body, and Karis decides to defeat the demon by killing himself. The movie isn't just about the scares. It has layers of meaning that make it even more powerful. Father Karis' dream about his mother is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the film. It's not just a random nightmare, it's a look into his guilt and his struggle with faith. He couldn't save his mother, and now he feels like he can't save Reagan either. That's what makes his final act of sacrifice so meaningful. It's not just about defeating the demon, it's about redemption. The final exorcism scene is another masterpiece. It's not just a battle between priests and a demon, it's a fight between faith and doubt, between good and evil. Father Marin is completely sure of what he's doing, while Father Karis is still struggling with his beliefs. And that's what makes their dynamic so interesting. Even if you don't believe in demons or possession, the film's themes of guilt, faith, and sacrifice absolutely hit hard. These little details help The Exorcist save its rank as one of the top horror movies even to this day. So, what do you think about The Exorcist? Does it still hold up to this day? Did the head spin scene get you too? Thanks for watching. If you want to see more breakdowns of important scenes from horror movies, please like this video and subscribe to the channel.